My name is Herman. I was born in Berlin, Germany, and in July 6, 1924. My parents were divorced early when I was 6 years old, so I hardly remember my father. But then the Nazi regime ordered that Jews cannot attend public schools anymore, so we had to attend a Jewish school. My mother had a store, a furniture business in Berlin, and she managed the store till 1938, when there was the so-called Kristallnacht, November 9th. I have a big sign on the window with big letters to show that it's Sarah Anna Haller that was the owner of the store. So anybody could see right away that it was a Jewish store. And they said, do not buy by Jews, because the Jews are our misfortune. We had people that came in the back, from the back, you know, so they should not see that they go and buy by Jews. And we were discriminated. We could not go in the park. In the park, we had in our area, there was a huge park, a beautiful park. They had special benches in that park for Jews only to sit in that park. And then after a while, they didn't allow Jews at all to go into the park. And so every day they came out with new rules, new orders against Jewish people. Every day, this the Nuremberg, that was the so-called the Nuremberg laws. That's why in space, after the war, they had the trials in Nuremberg, because that was where they made all those laws against Jews. And actually, not only against Jews, but against anybody that was against the Nazi regime. And like I said, then came Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht was the worst. My mother was very concerned, because she had a sister that had 2 little children. And they also had a furniture store. The whole family was in the furniture business. And where she lived, in the back of where the store was, there was a courtyard in back of it, and in that courtyard there was a synagogue. So my mother was very concerned about her sister. She tried to get in touch with her, couldn't get through with the telephone. So she asked me to take my bicycle and ride over to my aunt and find out what's going on. So anyway, I went outside. As soon as I went outside, I couldn't ride my bicycle because the street was all covered with glass, because they broke all the Jewish stores, they smashed all the windows, and down the street there was a synagogue on the first floor. And that building was not only the synagogue, but there was also people were living there in the building, so they could not put fire in the synagogue. So what they did, they took all the books, the Torah scrolls, and the benches, and threw it out in the street and made a big bonfire. And there was a big mob outside, and they were standing there. There was police there, there was fire department there. And the fire department was pouring water on the synagogue over there to make sure that the fire should not spread to the adjacent building, part of the building where people were living. There were not non-Jewish people were living there. mingled in with the mob, I found out that my aunt and the children were saved, that they were moved away to some neighbors in the neighborhood. They were not there. So after that, there was no way of opening the store again. And as a matter of fact, they made a decree that the insurance companies were supposed to pay for the broken glass. You know, my mother had insurance on the showcases and all. So, as a matter of fact, they had a meeting there with the big Nazi chiefs, what they're going to decide what they're going to do. So they decided that they let the insurance company pay, and then they confiscated the money and put it into the Reichsbank, into the German bank. In that meeting that they had about the insurance, they put a fine on the Jewish people of 1 billion marks at the time to pay for the damages that they did. And nobody could leave the country unless he had a paper from the Internal Revenue Department that he paid his portion of the fine. And after that, it was impossible to live in Germany anymore. So my mother had to make arrangements for us to leave.